And why don't we get to the news of the week ending March 29th, 2024. There's a lot of news that's unfolding and includes a lot of people that are very prominent that we're going to talk about. Mark Cuban, Hunter Biden, and Ronna McDaniel. And I don't know how much news you're following, but, of course, I'm in the news usually in the morning. I open up the phone, I wake up at about 5 o'clock, and I read news from about 5 to 6 typically. And I try to read from various sources. Unlike Sarah Palin, as I always say, I know what news sources I'm reading from. I'm reading from CBS, ABC, CNN, Axios, New York Post, Fox News, Fox Business. I try to read a wide variety. BBC, I try to read from a wide variety of news sources. Al Jazeera, Israel Times, Irish Times. I try to see what everybody is saying in these various news journals. You want to call them news. They're all pushing some kind of corporate propaganda and spin based upon the political ideology of the group that is reporting on this news. So somewhere in between everything that I'm reading is the truth somewhere. So we're pulling this stuff up, though, from Fox Business, and this includes Mark Cuban. Mark Cuban was supporting Nikki Haley some weeks back until Haley dropped out and is holding up her endorsement because she obviously has some kind of 800 electorates, if I'm not mistaken, that she's going to use as a bargaining chip for perhaps a place in the administration, somewhere in the party. So she's got a little bit of a bargaining chip in her hand that she could work with Trump, who is going to be the nominee, and very potentially the president if things continue to keep going the way they're going. So Mark Cuban, you know who Mark Cuban is, from Shark Tank, and he owns the Dallas Mavericks, a piece of them maybe even anyway. This is coming from Fox Business, March 21st, and it says that Cuban's been vocal about his commitment to opposing Trump. And it goes on to, and we picked up, various pieces of it, and it goes on to say, the Shark Tank entrepreneur made an appearance at a Dallas fundraiser on Wednesday night, held in the backyard of a private residence. So you see all the nodes of power all connecting, working together. And of course, Cuban told ABC News they wanted to show his support and say hi to the president. Okay. Haley suspended her campaign early in the month, and the business mogul opened about his preference for Biden over Trump, who is the presumptive nominee. Let me ask you, does anyone here want to go back to 2020, when fear ruled our lives and Trump was president? I don't think so, Biden asked at the fundraiser, according to ABC. Now, what do you mean, like, fear ruled our lives? You know what today fear is? We just saw that some convicted felon, some criminal, running around New York at a traffic stop, just a routine traffic stop. NYPD police, Diller, was shot and killed by somebody who was convicted of 21 various crimes, from gun possession to assault and the like. And crime is running rampant and wild all throughout New York City, and all throughout the country there's a lack of law and order. As you see people storming across the border, you have illegal immigrants either punching citizens, threatening them, stealing from them. There is organized retail theft. You didn't have all of that stuff going on during the Trump presidency. You did have people burning down cities during the Summer of Love, and they were setting fire to police squad cars and headquarters in Seattle and Minneapolis. And all this on the heels of what was the George Floyd murder, which, of course, nobody's excusing the pervasive nature and the repugnant behavior of the police officer, who shall have no name, in his conduct, how he stopped and treated Floyd. However, everybody, in reaction to this, it had to become a racial thing. We have to make it a racial thing, and therefore goes the country. And all you had was $2 billion in property damage that resulted from that. So now the police officer, a white police officer, Diller, is killed by a black American in Queens. I don't see any riots. I don't see any cities burning down. It's just a tragedy between two people. And you leave the race out of it. But, because there's no political currency in a white police officer being killed, there's nobody that's going to bang and beat on that drum. Right? So it just will fade into the background. Another, unfortunate incident of somebody who served valiantly in the police department. So we're so concerned about fear ruling our lives. Okay, so Donald Trump doesn't want to run the country. He wants to run a campaign, Mark Cuban told Sean Hannity. And Joe Biden actually wants to run a country. Well, really? Well, really what we do is we go in the, to pull it up, the feeling of the country, whether or not the country is going in the wrong direction. And we pull it up, and this is certainly from ABC. And this was just done recently. And ABC, CBS, there's certainly NBC. They're certainly not Trump lovers. And basically right now, 2 years before the presidential elections, the whole question becomes the state of the country. We feel like we're going in the right direction. Well, in this particular article from November 5th, 2023, a year before the presidential election, 3/4 of Americans, 76% believe that the country's headed in the wrong direction. And the leading Democratic and Republican candidates are viewed broadly unfavorably, according to a new ABC-NBC Ipsos poll. Okay, so that's currently now, meaning November of 2023, a year out of the presidential election. If we look at what was again, from Ipsos, in the Trump era, this was, again, about a year and so before the 2020 election, 54% reported that the country's going in the wrong direction. And Trump also had a low approval rating at 43%. But again, if you look at it, there's always going to be the right direction, wrong direction polls that are done a year or two before the presidential election, and it's always that the country's going in the wrong direction. But comparing bad versus bad, in this case, we could say that half the country thought we were going in the wrong direction during, let's say, the Trump presidency during the 2016 to 2020 run. But now in the 2020 to 24 run, 3/4 of Americans thinks we're going in the wrong direction. Proof positive that there is not good domestic policy currently. Okay, go ahead. So I just want to go to a video. This is what I'm going to say is an excerpt. Video about Mark Cuban. Mark Cuban wants to slam Trump about what a terrible guy Trump is, how awful he is. Well, that's just because there's so much promotion of how terrible a guy Trump is. My goodness. But let's not excuse you, Mr. Cuban. So right here, this is from Shark Tank. This was a letter. It basically was a post on a Facebook page. Excuse me, from this person who Mark Cuban bought into his idea on Shark Tank and then reneged on the deal. So it's about a 2-minute video. It's from It's Mark Cuban from Shark Tank with a guy who he bought into his deal and then he reneged on him. So let's go to the video. Let's watch it.
$85. The Sharks then questioned how marketable the product would be given fire departments were often under budget. Barbara asked how many of the Hycon each fire department would need, to which Jeff answered an average of 35 units, which could run into about $7,000. After answering the questions and explaining the availability of distribution systems for sale of fire station products, it was time to see who would invest. Damon walked out, then Barbara, then Robert, who believed the Hycon should serve other purposes other than firefighting. And to everyone's surprise, Jeff revealed a smaller version of the column that could be used for hoses at home. He just hadn't concentrated on the domestic side of the brand, and that was why he didn't pitch it. As it would turn out though, Mark Cuban was interested in the small version and offered Jeff $1.25 million for 100% of the company.
What if I offered you $1.25 million for your company, plus a 3-year employment agreement at $100K per year to run the show? and I'll pay you a percentage of the profits once we hit certain hurdles that we agree to.
With a 3-year employment contract and a $100,000 yearly salary to run the business and some percentages of the profits. Then came Kevin with another offer for Jeff to consider, a $500,000 offer for 100% of the smaller version of the column idea and a 3% royalty fee in perpetuity. Things then got slightly dramatic between the two interested sharks, with Kevin accusing Mark of trying to rip the inventor off, but Mark didn't back down and changed his offer.
$1.25 million for 100% of your company.
I've never seen greed like that. That's unbelievable.
3-year employment agreement, so you're making $100,000 per year for 3 years minimum, and I think we're going to work together forever. Plus 7.5% royalty on everything sold.
If you accept that, Jeff, I want a moment of silence for what died in here today. That is ridiculous. 100%. You don't do 100% deals. That's crazy.
Eventually, Jeff accepted Mark's offer, and it was all good on the surface. However, after some time, it was revealed on the company's Facebook page that the deal fell through. Mark wanted to license out the design of the hose attachment as it would reduce costs and increase their profit margin, but Jeff didn't agree. He wasn't signing up for anything that would take managing the company off the table for him. Things even got a bit messier as Jeff went as far as calling out Mark Cuban's ego as the reason why he tweaked their agreement. Ultimately, a deal was never signed, and Hycon never took flight.
All right, and so that was just a little bit of an excerpt from Shark Tank of this gentleman who brought his Hycon product idea to Mark Cuban, and Mark Cuban got into it with Kevin O'Leary. Kevin O'Leary is appearing a lot now on Fox Business and CNN and Fox, really talking about the direction of the country, all of this insidious attack on Trump by Letitia James in New York City and Alvin Bragg chasing after Trump because, of course, show me the person and I'll find you the crime, because that's exactly what's been going on. So a lot of these tactics that are going on in this day and age is very criminal. But Mark Cuban trying to character assassinate and slam Trump for what a jerk Trump is. But here's Mark Cuban, who let his ego get away from him and needed to rip this idea away from Kevin O'Leary, who you see could objected to the entire thought and idea that the deal that he was offering the prospect business owner was just completely maligned and wrong. And as it turned out, Kevin O'Leary was right, per the letter, which, we're looking at right here. And basically, because of Mark Cuban's ego, he didn't want to be in the entirety of manufacturing, and he went back on his word after the show. And then, of course, this whole idea just fell apart at the seams, and the guy never really followed through with it, from what I understand. So ridiculous. So you shouldn't throw stones, Mark, from your glass home at guys like Trump, especially a guy like Trump who, the more you beat him, he's like Doomsday. He just gets angrier and stronger. And he just keeps coming. This is another pretty good one. I like this one, as far as an article is concerned. Moscow concert hall where deadly shooting took place has links with Trump. So there was a deadly shooting in Moscow, who we know now this whole thing was allegedly, from what I understand, perpetrated by ISIS on Moscow. And basically, the highlight of the article is former U.S. president held the Miss Universe beauty contest at Crocus City Hall in 2013, telling the media he had invited Putin, who did not show up. The venue was built by property developer Ross Agalarov, who has links to Trump. At least 40 people were killed in a shooting at the venue on Friday. Yeah, so this is the nonsense that we're looking at, which is, what are you trying to say? So because Trump had an event there, somehow he's tied into this attack that was done in the theater? That's why you have to read all these kinds of articles. So what does it say? Crocus City Hall in the Moscow region is the scene of a deadly shooting and fire claimed by the Islamic State. It's a plush concert venue where former President Trump once held a Miss Universe contest. It's a short walk from a Moscow metro station. It's outside the city limits. Complex also includes a shopping center. Big deal. Go on. The intimate concert venue has attracted a range of Russian and international stars. So it goes on to say, if you read it here, that, the venue was built by Agalarov, who's extremely well known. And he was born in Azerbaijan, whatever that means. So Trump held the Miss Universe there in 2013, telling me he invited President Vladimir Putin, who didn't show up. And then he appeared in one of Aglarov's videos during the time that he was running against Clinton, the Clinton campaign, the news network, for 2016. So basically, if you read the article, it's so kind of ridiculous. It goes on to say that basically, Aglarov in 2016 arranged for Trump Jr. to meet up with and Paul Manafort to meet a Russian lawyer, and offered damaging information on Clinton, which nothing came of it. That's what it says. Basically, the meeting was unproductive. So I didn't understand the entire article, which is why we pulled it and we laughed about it. Like, just because Trump had the Miss Universe there, why are you trying to show, like, what is the nexus between Trump, Miss Universe, and ISIS? Committing this, heinous crime against humanity, just killing a whole bunch of civilians. It's like saying my bodybuilding shows that I was holding in 2017 at the Landmark Theater in Port Washington, and there was a huge, public shooting that took place at the theater, a mass killing. Phil Sotilli used to have his bodybuilding shows there in 2017. Well, clearly, I must be public enemy number one, and they're coming for me. I am potentially, because of my 7-year-ago relationship with Landmark Theater, I'm on the short list of possible people that could have been involved in this crime. Makes no sense. The final piece of the news that we're going to hit for this week is Ronna McDaniel. And if you don't know who Ronna McDaniel was, she actually is Mitt Romney's. I don't know if she is his niece, daughter. I really don't know that information offhand, but connected to Mitt Romney, and she was the head of the RNC. Well, Trump let her go so that he could position himself to have the right people in place to start ramping up his presumptive nomination and campaign that'll kick off sometime over the summer. So Ronna McDaniel, as a consequence, took a job, $300,000 a year, to be a contributor to NBC. And according to the Post, and pull that up, Ronna McDaniel was fired. And it's must-see TV that proves that the leftist media sets the rules that they never follow. Right? Like on Fox, you have Jessica Tartloff, and you had Juan Williams, and I'm sure you still have some people that are left-leaning that are involved with Fox. So they do have a dissenting voice on the network, so that you do have that democratic voice. So Fox is a little more, as they say, fair, balanced. They have a lean. Let's not pretend that they don't have a lean to the right. But at least they moderate some of that position with having some folks, like on the Five, that have a left lean. You can't have that on NBC. Evidently, we know that now. So I'm glad it's out in the open that NBC can only promote leftist views in the echo chamber. You can't have any dissenting views because, God forbid, you had an alternative perspective to the propaganda that they're trying to promote on NBC. You might have people change their mind or their votes, or they may actually come to realize that the country is going in the wrong direction with immigration and with handing out all kinds of privileges and money to illegal immigrants who have crossed the border illegally. Or you have a party, an entire party on the left that allows for this entire warped reality of transgenderism. Now, if you want to live your life as transgender, then do what you do, go do you, and you live happy. But don't expect the rest of us to play into your characterization of being another gender, or telling us that there's a spectrum of genders and you can't even define them and we don't know where one begins and another ends because it's just all made up in your head. Well, these are some of the ideas that the left espouses. And then they want to try to criminalize all these ideas of folks on the right who want strong borders, strong military, low taxation, small government, and they don't want to start taking away the rights of women. And we certainly want to try to rein in, this deficit spending that is just causing $1 trillion deficit and creating to economic uncertainty. All right, again, just going back to the story at hand, the New York Post article on Ronna McDaniel's termination from NBC. The Mean Girls pile on NBC against Ronna McDaniel. It's a perfect demonstration of what bullies all these leftists are while pretending to be paragons of compassion and empathy. And this was from Miranda Devine, who submitted this as an op-ed to the New York Post. So they lecture everyone about the evil of bullying and impose disastrous anti-bullying measures on schools only because they want to reserve this instrument of social control for themselves. It was just a very well-written article, and we just took pieces of it to read to you. When they attack a defenseless person in mob fashion, mock them, denigrate them, punch them in the face, and then kick them while they're down, it's not bullying. You must understand the rules they set for us don't apply to them because they are the chosen few, the selfless TV anchors embarked on a crucial mission. They're always saving democracy, defending the underdog, speaking truth to power, or in McDaniel's case, preserving the sacred airways of NBC and its crazy sister station. Yeah, exactly. So, they all piled on, if you saw anything, Chuck Todd and Rachel Maddow and Crazy Joe Scarborough and the morning crew over there. How terrible Ronna McDaniel. She's an election denier. She's a liar. When all of the folks on their network, all they did was deny that Stacey Abrams lost the Georgia governorship. No, she didn't lose. It was stolen from her. Voter suppression. Okay, people weren't allowed to vote. Okay, even Hillary Clinton. No, the election was taken away from her. They even said that Trump was an illegitimate president, meaning that he wasn't rightfully voted in. Quickly, people forget. That's why you have to follow up on this news. So, going on. Here we go. Hiring the former Republican National Committee chair and Trump protege, I guess that's once upon, the protectee, excuse me, is that what it says? Protectee, I think I might need glasses. Protectee, trying to see it across the room. Well, we said to election deniers, not just what they can do on our airwaves, but they can't do that as one of us, a badge-carrying employee of NBC News, as paid contributors to our sacred airways. That's an actual quote from an NBC anchor, Nicole, don't forget the L. Wallace. Yeah, so they're saying, you can't have liars and people that, misrepresent the facts, which they are just purveyors, that they traffic in that. Bad decisions will inevitably happen, Rachel Maddow opined, addressing her boss at NBC. Headquarters will reportedly pay her $30 million a year to go on there once a week. So she went on to say, mistakes will be made, but our part of resilience as a democracy is going to be us recognizing when decisions are bad ones and reversing those bad decisions. Take a minute and acknowledge that maybe it wasn't the right call. It's a sign of strength, not weakness, to acknowledge when you were wrong. How? These people are sociopaths. How could they make statements like that? Specifically, Rachel Maddow. When did she come out and say that the Christopher Steele dossier was wrong, totally fabricated, thrown out by Robert Mueller? When did they say there was no evidence of collusion between Trump and Russia? She trafficked in that for over a year. Never said, you know what, we got it wrong. They even went off on Trump's financials. He's not a rich man. And then they pulled up they somehow got his tax returns. Showed he was, recorded $150 million a year. She had egg on her face there. She didn't even say, oh, you know what, he does make a lot of money. I don't make $150 million a year. So clearly he's a wealthy guy. So Miranda Devine went on to say, the White House approves of their bullying, according to an anonymous senior Biden campaign official who told Politico it was heartening seeing members of the free press drawing a line and saying we will not normalize someone who actively worked to undermine and deconstruct our democracy. So you got the White House, who is now they're leaning in to this, when they should just say, listen, news networks should represent the truth, the facts as they happen, and allow their viewers to make decisions on these things on their own. And if Ronna McDaniel has different viewpoints than some of the other anchors, or that, in fact, of the news station itself, she should be allowed to represent that perspective and point of view, and allow the viewer to make up their own damn mind about what it is they're listening to. But we can't do that on NBC, but God bless them. God love them. They're out in the open. At least we know now they are a left-leaning opinion piece. They're not journalists. At least we know that. They're pundits and talking heads. But at least we know that now. We know they're a left-leaning establishment that can only continue to propagate their points of view left of the center. Not as a news organization. But at least they're out in the open with it now. And now we know. And knowing is half the battle.